Hey there, how you doing? Welcome to the DMU live stream this evening. My name's Jamie. I'm going to be your host for the evening. Good news for you guys is I'm not going to be the person doing most of the talking. I'm going to be the host. We've got Beth and Tom with us. Beth and Tom are current students at DMU, both of them Londoners who've left the big city to come up to DMU. We're going to be talking to them about their student experience, their motivations in terms of their decision making, some top tips for you guys watching as applicants or inquirers, just to give you a bit of an insight into student life at DMU, dipping into the course, dipping into the accommodation, dipping into their own decision making from year 12 and 13 through to coming to university. And any questions you have got, any point during the stream, do not hesitate to pop them in the chat and we'll pick them up live and try and tackle your queries and questions as we go. Right, enough from me already. Let's go to Tom first. Good evening, Tom. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
That's okay. I'm doing very well. It's great to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Tom. As Jamie said, I'm from London. I lived there my entire life before moving here to Leicester in 2019, and I'm currently a third-year journalism student, so not too long left, but impart some wisdom, I guess, before I go.
There you go, some wisdom. I've never imparted wisdom, but it's something to aspire to, isn't it? Fantastic. Thanks, Tom. Beth, hi, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us as well.
Hi, yeah, I'm Beth. I'm also from London, as the live stream says. I'm specifically from Bromley, which is southeast London. And I am currently a second-year student, and I'm doing architecture.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We did do this London live stream last year, and one of the students ended up not being from London. We weren't quite sure how we got on. How she got on the stream. She said, "Oh, I didn't realise." So it's good news. You're both from the area we're talking about. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're a London student, there is so much choice in terms of university. You've got loads of universities on your doorstep, and obviously great sort of transport links from London to get to all sorts of parts of the countries as well. So we'll come on to London in a sec. First thing I want to talk about, I guess, is the fundamental part of any decision-making journey, which is the course itself. There is such a huge amount of choice in terms of the different courses you can study. Every single university, I mean, here at DMU, we've got several hundred courses at undergraduate level ourselves. Times that by several hundred universities, and the choice is endless. So, Beth, how did you come to choose your subject? Was it something you knew? You know, you read some of these personal statements. From an early age, I knew. Was that you? Did you know? Or was it genuinely something you had to really, really think about during your sixth form or college career?
No, I was, in fact, one of those people who knew from a very young age, which was very lucky for me because it meant I knew what to take for GCSEs and A-levels. Obviously, not everyone's that lucky. But yeah, I've known for a very long time that I've wanted to do architecture.
Fantastic. We get that. We go and talk to students in schools at like year 8 when they're sort of 12 or 13 years old. And lots of them have got like no idea, you know, university, what's that? But there's always a few who know. And it's certain courses. It's nursing, midwifery, architecture, fashion, dance, those types of courses when people just know in advance what they want to do. So for you, it was all about working out where do you want to go and then getting yourselves ready as an applicant to make sure that you got the offers, because it can be quite competitive architecture, can't it?
Yeah, very much so. Especially like some of the top ones can be very difficult and it's very overwhelming. Especially you've got to be careful of the type of course you pick because some of them are certified and some of them are not. And, you know, it's a bit overwhelming, but if you do the research, then yeah, it becomes a bit easier.
It is complicated. So by certified, it's certain types of subjects you have to have or look for external accreditations that essentially mean the course you're doing is validated to allow you to progress onto what you want to do next. And in architecture, this is the RIBA accreditation, isn't it? The Royal Institute of British Architects. And that essentially that's what you need to have to qualify long term as a professional architect. And how many years does it take you, Beth, to fully qualify as an architect?
It does take 7 years to
become
fully qualified. Obviously, some people get mixed up and think, "Oh my gosh, is the bachelor's degree 7 years?" What?
Yeah, that would be a test of stamina.
No, it's not. It's just it depends where you go, but normally it's just the 3 years. You take a year out in practice, and then it's another 2 years for masters, another year out in practice, and then exams at the end. So that equates to 7 years.
Brilliant. And you're biting it off bit by bit, aren't you? You know, you're not committing to 7 years up front. You're essentially taking your undergraduate degree, you're seeing how that goes, you're seeing how you feel, and then you're moving forward from there, either to do these next steps of architecture or to take it as a degree to go off and do something using those skills you developed. So you've got various different points when you can stop and take a breath. You're not committing your 7 years right up front.
Yeah, and the bachelor's degree is because you're covering so much, it is quite good to actually change to different things. You don't have to go into architecture with an architecture degree. You can go into interior design and lots of other design. So it's a really transferable degree. So it's really good.
Exactly. I've got a mate who is an interior designer working for Pizza Express. So they have, they convert random buildings into a restaurant, churches and all these other things. And he did an architecture degree and then went off to work on interiors for this well-known company. So Tom, we'll bring you in on your journalism course. Are you similar? Did you know that you were going to be a journalist? Because from knowing you from some of this work, you are a perfect archetypal journalist. Was that you from a young age, or was it a sixth form decision between different courses?
I think that it's an interesting. I feel like I've always had the passion for journalism. It's just been, I don't think as necessarily you have that that kind of view. I don't think you look at it and think, oh yeah, when I was 6 years old, did I really know what journalism was? Like it's one of those strange ones. Because for me, I know we spoke about this on different live streams and things like that about my journey to university, and obviously I came through clearing. Because I didn't decide that I wanted to go to university until results day, which is not any wisdom, by the way. That's not a good decision to do it that way. So for me, it was making the transition, I guess, in my mind from where do I want to go, what am I finding the course that would help me get it. I almost worked it backwards, as opposed to kind of just going, oh, well, I'll go to university and see what happens. I was very particular in my decision, and the journalism course at DMU is fantastic and really stood out to me when making my decision about where I wanted to go with my career and how this degree would help me get there.
See, I'm loving the contrast we've got here. We've got Beth, who knew from birth that it was going to be an architecture degree, and we've got Tom, who didn't know until results day that it was going to be a degree at all. So I think this just goes to show you that there's no singular route that you take to get to university. There's lots and lots and lots of ways of doing it, and some people plan and they scope and they're working at it for years to get to where they want to be. But equally, a lot of people make quite spontaneous decisions, and the process allows you to work either way. Tom, your internet's hanging on by a thread. You're doing lots of various holding the poses as you're speaking. The audio's all good, but occasionally it's freezing you in some lovely poses. So we'll see. I'll see if I can screenshot the best pose of the evening when you're frozen. So thank you for that on the course. That's really, really interesting, and it's great to hear the two different views that you've got. So when it came to where you went to university, there tends to be different camps of people. Some people know they're moving away from home. Some people are really umming and ahhing about it. And some people actually keep their options open and have both local and further away options on there. So how did it work? Let's start with you first, Tom, this time. Let's go to your view. When you made your last minute decision to get to university, did you know then that moving away was the way you were going to go, or did it just sort of more happen that way?
Yeah, I'd like to apologise about the internet. I think it's because there's a lot of people in my house trying to use it at the moment. So I apologise for that.
We've all been there with the internet in the last 2 years. There's not been a single person in the world who at some point has not been kind of frozen in pose or cursing their Wi-Fi connection. So please do not worry.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, hopefully, if the audio is okay, then at least people can get some entertainment out of the freezing. Excellent. So to go to the question about choosing university. No, journalism is a course that many universities put on very well. I think that London especially is almost renowned for having fantastic journalism universities. However, for me, I wanted that moving away from home experience as part of my university life. Just go to somewhere that was on my doorstep and kind of do the commute, if you will, because I didn't want to feel like I was already at work. University is that step in between the world of work and I guess college. So I think that for me, while London has a lot of great universities for journalism and my course specifically, for me, moving away from home and kind of coming to a new city and having that experience of living independently was a massive factor in choosing to not stay in the capital.
No, it makes sense. Interesting. No, then you're right. There are a lot of local universities, and I guess journalism's a course that quite a decent amount of unis will do. Not all. Interesting to hear the process. How about you, Beth? Were you a always planning to move away type person, or was that something you found quite a difficult decision?
It was quite a difficult decision initially, but I knew that I did want to move away to get that university experience of independent living. Obviously, I still could have perhaps moved into accommodation in the city, but the accommodation is extremely expensive and you're not getting a lot for your money there. So that was a bit of a turn off for me on that kind of sense. I did look at, I think it was UCL, because they have a good architecture course. But like with some of the London universities, like Imperial, UCL, I find they're a little bit snobby-ish. So not really, I didn't really like the vibes I got there. So yeah, I preferred, moving away for sure. But I guess also another thing is if I had stayed at home, I'd have to commute. I'm not a big fan of the tube. I don't know if anyone is really, let's be honest. And yeah, I just preferred coming to somewhere where campus and the city centre was like really close to where I would live as well. So I could just walk everywhere and it would just be very easy. So yeah, I'm glad I found that.
Because I guess theoretically the London universities are local to you, but Bromley into town's going to be a sort of decent train line into like Victoria or Charing Cross or something. Then you've got to change, and in reality, you're quite a decent length of commute. I guess from where you are as well, Tom, you're in an urban area, but if you look at the universities that are London-based but not necessarily right in your local patch, then sometimes it can take you as long to get across London as it can to get to a completely out-of-town location sometimes, can't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just kind of echoing what Beth said, in the sense that, especially when it comes to things like delays, or I guess that planning of your journey and the unpredictability of it, all of a sudden it becomes such a hassle that that's not what the journey to university of all places should be. Kind of being one of the ants, as they call it, on the tube, everyone going to work and coming back in their swarms. So I think that I didn't really want to be part of that either. Was not for the commuting life.
No, sounds good. See, my story is completely the opposite of you guys. I'm from a tiny village in a massively rural area. And for me, university is all about moving away, but more to get to a bigger, more urban environment, whereas you've sort of scaled down. But at the same time, it's easy to say, well, London's got all of these amenities everywhere. But in reality, London's such a huge place. You've still got to do a lot of travelling to get to those amenities, whereas Leicester is quite a compact city, isn't it? You can walk into the city centre and indeed all around the city centre in kind of 5-10 minutes to walk there, and then everything's literally on your doorstep. You don't need tube, you don't need taxi, you don't need even a bike. You can literally walk everywhere. So that must be quite different to almost what you're used to at home when you've got the city, but the vastness actually makes it inaccessible in some ways. Yeah, they're like, yeah, whatever, Jamie. So let's talk about accommodation. So you moved to Leicester. And Leicester's either an hour and a bit from St Pancras on the train, or it's a couple of hours straight up the M1, depending what you do. What was it like living in halls? Did you live in student halls themselves? Did you live in a private flat? How did you play it in year one? Let's start with yourself, Beth. What was your accommodation preferences?
So I started off with student accommodation, specifically owned by DMU. That was in case I had any issues. I knew it was owned by the university. It was also a good price as well. And yeah, I did enjoy it. It's a little difficult because it was during the pandemic. So I was quite isolated, and unfortunately I only stayed up until Christmas, and then I went back home and I did everything online from home. But all that said and done, it was a really nice place to live. I'm actually still in halls, just privately owned halls at the moment, and I probably will be for third year as well. So yeah, it's I prefer it, I guess. During the pandemic, I felt a little uneasy going into something private with a landlord. So yeah, I felt like this was a lot better, and I do enjoy meeting other people through the flats. So that's great too. Yeah.
It did. You mean you started in kind of the toughest year to start of all, didn't you? You know, you're in year one, and it really is smack bang in the pandemic, and the last part of your A levels will have been impacted as well. I mean, what we're obviously hoping for future generations of students is that, you know, we're easing restrictions again now. Let's hope that continues momentum wise. But the plan at present is to try and make the student experience as normal as possible. So at the moment, the lectures are happening online, but the tutorials and the hands-on work that you're both doing different ways in your course, that's face-to-face. And hopefully by this September, touch wood, we will be in, you know, a situation where you get to have a full student experience. And hopefully your final year, Beth, well, the final year of this stage of your 7 years, again, will be a lot more COVID-free and a lot more just able to be spontaneous and do what you want without having to overthink it, which is what COVID obviously has us all doing. Can I do this? Should I do this? I really want to go there, but is it the right thing to do? You know, and once we get to September, hopefully it'll be a lot more plain sailing. So how about you, Tom? What was your accommodation decision? Because you would have started and had a few months, sort of almost 6 months before the pandemic hit. You would have had the sort of normal freshers experience and the normal first part of the first year, and then kaboom. So how did you find it in year one, and what was your accommodation thinking?
Yes, so exactly what you just said there. We did have, obviously, you know, the lockdown right in the middle of my first year. So I guess it was good in a way that I got to experience some of the university life and things before everything started to completely shut down. So I think that, yes, so for me, I was in a student accommodation for my first year. And I lived with 3 other people, which is really, really amazing because they all live from different parts of the country. So it was all of these, you know, these 4 complete strangers from, you know, literally all over the country, with completely different lifestyles to me. Like, that was what was so interesting. It was that meeting new people, and equally getting to learn everything together. I think, you know, I was someone that came to university with little to no domestic skills. I couldn't turn on a washing machine. I didn't know that the drum was part of the washing machine. It was all very crazy, a learning curve. Yeah, so those kind of skills I just didn't have. But some of the other guys, you know, they knew they were better cooks. Some of them were better at the kind of more those domestic tasks. So it was cool that we were learning and all in this kind of wild experience together. You know, and I'm still friends with them now. I see them around town, and we get to talk to each other. So that was really, really good. All from like different courses, different parts of the country, like I said. Yeah, and that was a really, really awesome experience to be able to live with them until March of you know, the first year.
And have you got those domestic skills now, Tom? Are you literally, have you got the Jamie Oliver cookbook on the side, you know, laundry's just second nature? Are you in the zone with these things by year 3? I
actually had, yeah, because I'm in a house now, and I had a big Monday washing day. Monday madness, I called it. I do washing anyway. I don't just do it once a year. But yeah, I washed, I hoovered everything. Like, it was the place is spotless. So at least I've got a week to
the domestic goddess is here. My gran used to wash on a Monday, and that used to be all a generation thing. The older generations used to have wash day, you know. So clearly, you're picking up those skills. Yeah, no, I mean, it
exists. I'm learning.
Moving away, it's a big thing, you know, and I think people sometimes underplay it because you don't perhaps realise how much your family does for you when you're there. You know, your clothes kind of just materialise back in the room, and you know, you've always got the kind of shopping covered by your parents. Everything just turns up, all those types of things. You've suddenly got to look after yourself in terms of, you know, all the domestic things. You're cooking, you're cleaning, you're washing, you're shopping, but also you've got to plan your own time. How did you find time management in year 1? Because it's, you know, I don't think I realised how successfully my parents kind of nagged me and nudged me to do things at the right point. You know, even like getting up, suddenly you've got to do it completely by yourself, and you know, the snooze button's a tempting prospect for like 20 times in a row, isn't it? So how was that, Beth? Was it a bit of a shock having that kind of independence, or did you actually, you know, find it not too difficult, or were you more domestically prepared than Tom before you started?
I did find it very difficult. I still do, actually. I I can cook and do the laundry and all of that. Of course, it's just finding the time, especially with such a demanding course such as architecture. It can be very difficult. I also I have a lot of medical and mental health issues, so it makes it very difficult to look after myself. But I've got a lot of friends, and I've got my boyfriend as well. You know, I've kind of made a support network here, which is really, really great. So, you know, don't be afraid to, like, you know, make friends, talk to people. You're here to support each other. So yeah, although it was difficult and still is, I'm getting through, and you know, it does get easier.
And that's a really important, you know, the community element and the support's really important. You get all the formal support from the university, you know, whatever situation you're in, the university is there to help. But the community and networks that you form amongst your course mates, your housemates, you know, all of those things, the people you don't yet know, essentially, but these people become your network and your group of friends, you know. And we've got a TV advert out at the moment. Anybody who's watched any kind of telly in the last like 6 months will not have been able to miss this thing. But it talks about find my people. And I think that's genuinely a true thing about university life. You do find those networks, don't you? And they support you through it. I'm glad it's going well. You know, by year 3, you'll be plain sailing, you know, you'll be Monday wash day will be your thing as well, like Tom's. So we've had a question come in. I want to quickly bring it up here. Now, neither of you guys did this, but it's something we can chat through. So thanks for the question, Ali. He's asking, is it okay to take a gap year? Now, neither of you guys did. Did you have any mates who took a gap year before starting university? Or did everyone just literally go straight into uni?
A lot of my friends did go straight into university. I think that's kind of what's expected of a lot of people, but you know, it's really up to you. I did have one friend who did take a gap year. For some people, it's really great to take a break. Obviously, if you need time for yourself, I think that's really important. If you want that time to also earn some money through a job so you can support yourself better during university, that's also great. For some people, I know they find it a little difficult. They've taken a year break and then they've gone to university and they find it hard to get the momentum back again. So that's really something you're going to have to kind of check in with yourself and be like, is that going to be something I find difficult? If it is, you know, maybe gap year right now isn't the best idea. Maybe that might be something you do, like, you know, after your degree or something like that, where you go traveling. But obviously, you know, that's really up to personal preference. But sorry, I don't have any personal experience with this.
You're good with this advice, Beth. I can picture some vlog in the future when you are, you know, passing on your sage wisdom to people. It really is sound, because it does completely depend on your situation. You're absolutely within your rights to take a gap year. You can either take a gap year, then apply during your gap year and then start uni, or you can do your application before your gap year, get your place secured, and essentially defer your place for a year. And the reasons people do it are touched upon by Beth there. Some people do it because they want to earn money for a year and get themselves set up. Some people do it because they just want the excitement of doing something amazing before they start uni, traveling or whatnot. And some people do it just because they feel that academically they just need that break. By the time you get to 18, you've been in school or college, if you're a home student, for 13 years. It's a long time being taught. And some people think, hey, you know what, a break from that, I'm going to come back fresh. But yeah, there are some challenges to it. Potentially, like you say, as Beth mentioned, you lose that momentum. So you really feel like you have to redevelop all of those skills. And also, I had a mate who took a gap year, followed by a gap year, followed by a gap year, followed by a gap year, ended up not going, because once you start earning money, you get the taste of that cash in your pocket, and going to uni actually can be a challenge. It isn't necessarily a bad thing, because university isn't a compulsory thing to do. But yeah, there's pros and cons, but it's completely up to the individual, and universities will never judge you negatively for it. And in fact, it will give you skills and experiences you can actually use to your advantage. I took a gap year after I'd finished and went traveling all around Europe and working a bit and traveling a bit and working a bit. That was amazing. I definitely recommend that. Put off the real world of work, because once you start, that's it forever. You know, particularly coming out of COVID, I think a lot of people will do that because it's been a tough time. And the student experience has been, you know, impacted, like you both mentioned. So I can see a lot of people graduating this year or next year thinking, hey, I'm going to do something exciting and have those life experiences, and then get back to, in your case, Beth, 4 more years of developing your architectural skills. And yourself, Tom, your no doubt high profile journalism career, I'll be watching out for you on all prominent media platforms. So thanks for the question, Ali. And if anyone else got any questions other than that, do pop them into the chat. When I talk about part-time work and managing your time, obviously you're working right now, you're having fun chatting to the audience, but at the same time, this is one of your part-time jobs. So how do you find it, Tom? Is it easy to find work, and is it easy to manage work with your student lifestyle, your course, and your social scene?
Yeah, I think that it's a really important point to bring up, actually, on the thing of time management and how work factors into that, because I think that depending on how demanding your course is hours-wise, I think architecture is similar to journalism in that sense. We've got a lot of kind of contact hours, a lot of work during the week. Getting a part-time job that fits around those studies is very difficult. However, I mean, I make it work just about. But I think at the same time, it comes down to your fundamental time management, that you can do as much as you want, whether that's working, somewhere in the city. You might be doing some voluntary work. So I work with a charity as well, which is a really, really amazing opportunity and something that I love doing. But I wouldn't take it on if I couldn't do it alongside my studies. I think that's the most important way to look at it. It's like, fill your plate with as much as possible, but don't overflow it. Don't burn out and kind of forget your studies or have anything in your life be hampered as a result of you working. So I don't find it difficult to manage my time around my studies. I've taken more on, fun enough, in my third year, outside of studies, which is an interesting one. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same for Beth, but I think that having a part-time job is really important, but something that should really be not a priority. Studies should always come first, and then things like part-time work in your social life and whatnot.
What do you think, Beth? Is that how it works for you? Is it okay fitting it in? I mean, you mentioned before the architecture course is quite intense. Is the part-time work doable alongside your course?
Yeah, so I struggle quite a bit with time management, especially with such a demanding course. But obviously with this job as a student ambassador, that's really, really flexible. You can pick up whatever shifts you like, and I think that's really good. So to find a job that is, if you do struggle but you do need or you want a job, definitely go for something a lot more flexible like student ambassador. I also work when I'm back at home. So if you have a home job that's also flexible, that's really good as well. So I work at the libraries in the Bromley Borough, and that's really flexible. I'm a assistant librarian. It's a flexible worker job, so I can pick up shifts whenever. And so during holidays, I can also earn. So it doesn't always have to be about your studies while at campus. You can also pick up stuff while you're back at home if you do choose to go back during your holidays. So yeah, so it can be difficult, but going for more flexible jobs that they can be found. I know they can be quite difficult to find. Jobs in general are difficult to find, but find what works for you. Yeah.
Brilliant. And hopefully, again, as we come out of the COVID phase, there'll be far more jobs back in the kind of hospitality and retail sectors again. At some point, there's got to be a massive rebound in these sectors when everyone goes, well, hey, and feels they can safely have a good time. So I'd imagine that jobs in bars, cafes, restaurants, shops, clubs, those types of things are just going to really grow again in the next year or two once that sector gets to find its feet, because there's going to be I think a big social rebound in a positive way when COVID eventually becomes something we're kind of living with rather than being ruled by. But really good advice again there. And I think another thing that's really important to say, and people don't really realize, a lot of your ability to manage your time depends very much upon the course that you take. I think when you do A-levels, whatever combination of A-levels or a BTEC, whatever you do, your contact time in school is exactly the same. You do maths, physics, chemistry, or you do arts, English, history, you've got the same structure within school. Some courses might be argued as being harder than others. That's open to debate. But the principal body of work is the same whatever you study. You do a degree, you might find some classroom-based courses only have 10 or 12 hours a week contact time. Some lab or creative or workshop courses might have 30 odd hours a week contact time. But obviously makes a massive difference to your time management within the day. You know, some courses you might have a whole day or even 2 days without class. So working part-time and coping with your study, relatively straightforward. If your course is taken up most of your 9 to 5, and then you've got some work in the evenings and weekends, that's when you've got to be a bit more careful with the part-time work, because you've got to balance it out. So it's well worth asking when you go to open days or talking to unis, or you're on live streams, just as a hint, the questions about, well, how's my course going to work? How many hours are there in business and management? How many hours are there in engineering? Because people never think about it, but it makes a big difference. We're not going to talk for loads longer, because I'm conscious people have got busy evenings and things to do, and, you know, cleaning rotas to start in our cases, those types of things. Let's talk a bit about the social scene outside of the course and outside of part-time work. So we've got clubs and societies at universities, but obviously there's all sorts of different social things going on. How does it work for you, Tom? How's your sort of social scene at uni, and are you members of clubs and societies as part of the university?
Yeah, I think the one of the highlights of my time at university has been joining societies and being, you know, kind of part of all the things that DMU offers. So that was really important in my first year, for making friends and kind of, you know, being in this new city by myself. So I joined the Media Society, Demon Media, and I went in as a young, fresh-faced, you know, ironically radio presenter, and I got to do that, and we used to do like a politics show and a sports show and all this really fun stuff. And now I'm actually my third year, I'm the editor of the magazine that we have here at the university. So it's a really it's been a really good 3 years, a challenging 3 years, obviously with COVID and doing events and things like that. But that is a really fantastic thing to be involved with, and one that I can't commend highly enough. I've been along to some. I've just given them a try for the first month, usually, or first couple of months of term. Clubs tend to do like free trials, so you don't have to pay to be a part of them, and you kind of just go along. And so I'm also part of the tennis society now alongside the media one. So it's great. I can split my time up between the two of them. So I do a bit of tennis. And next week I'm even, this is more through my studies, I guess, but I'm keeping this whole thing of giving it a try going. And I'm doing Taekwondo. I don't know where this has come from, but I'm doing Taekwondo next week. So this may be the last live stream you ever see me on. So the societies are a fantastic way to kind of make new friends and have some really good experiences outside of your studies at university.
Taekwondo seems to be a real buzz society, particularly amongst the ambassadors. Every ambassador I seem to talk to seems to be doing Taekwondo. I think there must be a kind of word of mouth. Maybe there's some kind of commission thing going on here, bring a new member in and you can get discounts off your next month's membership or something. But they're all there to try. They're almost the equivalent if you're at school, like after school activities, because there's no long-term commitment. You can dip your toe in, you can try something completely different, and you make a whole load of new people. All of these people on your different societies and courses are all part of your DMU community. So how about you, Beth? Have you been big into clubs and societies, or do you get your social sort of kicks from elsewhere at uni?
Yeah, I think joining a society is invaluable, honestly. I obviously found it very difficult in first year to do that because of COVID. But this year I have, although I don't have a lot of time for societies, I have only joined the one. I've joined the gaming society, so I play D&D on a weekly basis. That's actually where I'm going after this live stream. So yeah, because you do need to make a bit of time outside of your studies to socialize, relax a bit. That's something I found very difficult to start with, but even if it's just the one society, try and, because you're going to meet new people, you're going to find some time to relax. It's really, really worth it. Obviously I've done some other things. I've, had some small parties with my flatmates, or we've gone out clubbing when it was safer. Obviously that didn't last very long. But, definitely take the opportunities, because I'm not kind of really a party animal, and I don't really go out a lot. I like to stay inside a lot. So, but when the opportunities arise, when someone's like, "Oh, do you want to come out?" I'd say really, university's the chance. It's the time to kind of just jump in and go, "Okay, sure," and you'll probably end up having a great time. So it's really worth it. Because you need a break from your studies for sure. So yeah.
I think that point about de-stressing is really important. I know students who are massively focused on their course, and sometimes it's possible to be too focused on your course, because over 3 years, particularly as you go into year 3, if it becomes this kind of singular thing that I am there to study, I am there to be successful, to get a first class degree, you put the pressure on yourself, and it actually can make it harder to achieve those goals. If you've got something in your life that gives you those releases, be it a club, a society, a sport, a hobby, just going out socially, it doesn't have to be going out like bars and clubs and drinking. It can just be going out for a coffee or hanging out with friends somewhere, but something that gives you some balance and some perspective is really important. I've known students. Well, I've known students overbalance it in different ways. I've worked in the sector for a long time. There's some students who party, essentially fail their course because they're obsessed with the partying. I know students who become so obsessed with earning money that, again, they forget to study and forget to socialise. And like I talked about, the students who are so focused on the course, they don't kind of get the whole experience. That concept of balance. The course is the most important thing. It's what you're there for. It's what you're paying your fees for. But at the same time, university is kind of a one-off lifestyle experience that you do want to maximize, particularly in, the early part of the first year. If this next year coming is a more COVID-free year, just say yes to lots of stuff. Throw yourself into it. Have those experiences. Once you've got through the first term, you'll start working out what do you want to do, what do you not want to do, who do you want to hang with, who do you not want to hang with, and you'll form your own scene. But in year 1, just do stuff, get involved in it, and then you will find your people off the back of it, And like Tom, tell people, do you play tennis within the tennis society, or are you a social member of the tennis group?
A social member is a nice way of putting it. Yeah. I do not play tennis, but I have my tie to show everybody that I'm part of tennis. And yeah, we hang out and we do loads of kind of dressing up stuff, and like all different themes each week. Yeah, it's really, really good, and I've met my best friends there. So yeah, so while I'm not on the court, I'm a social member. Yeah.
Which is a brilliant thing to do, because it's all about these networks of people and people I met on my clubs and societies. When I started university in the late 1920s, I'm still really good friends with them now. One of the lads from my Tenpin Bowling Society at uni got married in Bulgaria, and myself and my now wife went out there to the wedding. And you make friends for life from all of these different things that you do. So it's well worth getting you in there. And just to reassure Ali, who's still worried about his gap year, it is not bad to take a gap year, Ali. Do not worry. If you want a gap year, you take a gap year, apply to uni before you go, or when you come back. If you want to crack straight on and go on to your degree, no harm in doing that either. It is entirely what you prefer to do. Right, one final question from me before I don't want to hold back from the social activities, particularly if you didn't have any in year 1, Beth, and this is going to be a pressure question. If you had a top tip to anybody watching who is in the stages of either thinking about uni or applying to uni or is definitely coming to uni, what would your top tip be? I don't know which you want. I'll let the one who thinks they've got one go first, and the other one can rapidly think. Which is like when the waiter or waitress comes and goes, "What you're ordering?" You're like, "I don't know," and you have to suddenly make the quick decision. So I'm going to go, Beth. What would your top tip be?
Top tip. I feel like we've covered a lot here, and I feel like just sort of like the idea of just kind of throwing yourself in and kind of just taking the opportunities, because you'll definitely learn more about yourself. I feel like I've really found myself at university, and I feel like a lot of people really agree with that. Like this is the time to come discover yourself. Like, so just say yes to a lot of things, try things out. Just also be yourself. Don't, like, I know of a lot of people in like school, they like had to pretend to be like, to be liked or whatever. But here you just be yourself. Like, you're gonna find people who really like you for just who you are, and it will just make you so much happier, honestly. So yeah, just be yourself and say yes to lots of things.
I love it. That's a brilliant tip. And you're right, because often you don't know people when you get to university. You know, you've not got to comply with anyone's idea through your school career of who you are. You know, the nickname you've been dragging around for 10 years through the school playground, you can shed all those things off. You really can. I think, what did someone say to me once? You can learn to be the person you will be in the future when you get to university. And I think that's really good advice, Beth. Tom, final words for you. You've had loads of time to think about this now, so I'm expecting an absolute stonker here, something high quality. No pressure. Oh no, his internet pause. His internet's not paused.
I mean, I feel sentimental as. Am I here?
You're there.
I think it's crashed. Am I here now? Am I here now? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to
say it quick.
Okay. Okay. Yep. It wasn't as I've got nothing as inspirational, nothing as sentimental as Beth has just said, and because I have to just echo those, and that's completely right. This is where you find yourself. But for me, it's make sure if you're umming and ahhing about university and you're on the edge, then make sure that you're picking the course that is right for you and your career. I think you don't have, what you set out to do at university isn't necessarily what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. Obviously, like I said, degrees can be applied to different jobs. But don't be one of those people that says, I'm going to go to uni and get a degree, and I'll cross that bridge when I come to it when it comes to finding a job. Find something relevant and be yourself.
You are both fantastic advice on both of you. And I think all the way through the stream, actually, as well as talking about your experience, you've genuinely given some great tips. You know, if either of you want a career in, student engagement, student recruitment careers, if you think in architecture, 7 years, I'm going to go and do something different, there is definitely a role for you there. I want to thank you both so much for your contributions and giving up your time this evening. It really is appreciated, and you've been fantastic. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank Ali for his questions about gap years. By the way, go for it. Gap years are fine. And I want to wish you all hang on, we may have another question. We've got someone saying, don't go yet. Mohammed is saying really quick, what's Mohammed going to say? Let's wait. So I feel that we need to know this. I don't feel we can close until we know the question that Mohammed has got. This is going to be a crucial one. Your gaming society will have to wait for another 5 minutes here, Beth. This is I'm debating actually whether I'm going to go for a run after this. I've been sat pretty much in the same place since 8 o'clock in the morning. The psychological part of me wants to exercise, but another part of me is saying, no, just go straight for something to eat and sit down in your bum. So I really can't decide. Tom is really quick. That's what he's saying. I think he's saying that, Tom, you speak very quickly, perhaps.
Thank you. Or maybe he means quick-witted. I don't know. It could mean that. It could be quick humour.
I think we can interpret it that way. I think so. I think Tom was the voice of the campus at the open day we just had, by the way. Thousands of people there, and the voice booming across the speakers all across campus was Tom's. So he did a presentation with us to a large audience at the welcome talk. But then I felt like you were with me all day, because everywhere I went, I could hear your voice talking to the audience. So yeah, you were the star of the open day there. Thank you, Mohammed. Tom will take that as a compliment, because it's the best way to take everything anyone says. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely evening, Beth and Tom, and thank you very much once again. And if you are interested in DMU, keep an eye on the open days. We've got another open day coming up on the 5th of March. Jump onto our Facebook group. It's applying to DMU 2022. Jump onto that. There's loads and loads and loads of current students and potential students on there. Great chance to make some mates before you start and talk to people about uni. And get hold of our website and all of our course info. All of our details are on there. And keep an eye out for our next exciting live stream coming soon over the next few weeks. Right, thanks again, guys, and have yourself a lovely evening, everyone watching. And all it remains to say now for myself is goodbye, and thank you very much. If I can find my camera, goodbye.